Well, my name is Daniel Anthony. My passion is growing food and seeing people in our community eat from our land. And raising my children and the children of our community to be the next generation of stewards, to be the next generation of subsistence farmers, to be the next generation of commercial farmers that are using traditional indigenous practices to make the soil and farmlands better for the next generation.
My name is Riley. I'm 6 years old. I like farm because it's good, and we also, at those farms, we make more kalo to feed the community.
For over the last decade, I've focused on really traditional poi making. Back in 2011, we spearheaded the legalization and the ending of 100 years of traditional poi making prohibition. Since then, we've been focused to see a board and stone in every family household, a full calabash of poi, and the right to grow your own taro. And we've done this through multiple board and stone workshops across the islands, to hosting community poi making workshops, to having free huli giveaways. We've continued to commit ourselves to basic sustenance, subsistence practices, growing what you eat and sharing that with the community.
My name is Kuya and I'm 5. My favorite part of the farming is harvesting my plants.
You know, my father's father was the first resident physician on the Waianae coastline. And my stepmother, who raised me, her dad was the last traditional taro farmer in our district. And so I was raised with both the hospital industry and the traditional farming industry. And what I saw was that as the community had less and less water to grow their own resources, their own food, the more dependent they became on the medical system. And when I asked my grandfather, who's 90 years old, did he make Waianae healthier? His response to me was, no, grandson, I helped them deal with their pain better. So I believe in a future where people have a very good way of life, that their well-being is a priority. And so in order to do so, the simplest solution is accessing our water and our land resources to grow healthy foods. And it's not just the eating of the healthy foods, it's the entire practices that go along with raising them and having a connection to the land. You know, we come to Hawaii, it's such a beautiful place, it has so many resources. Why would we not have a deep connection to those resources through what we eat and how we live? And so to me, I believe that that connection is the solution. It will raise our people to a better standard of health, a better standing of living. Will create an economy that is based in traditional practices and making the land better. And that will create an ability for us to support tourism and support the other types of economy in a sustainable, long-term perspective. You know, the practices that we offer, that we share, that we educate are for Hawaiians and non-Hawaiians alike. In Hawaii, eating locally grown sustainable starches is the solution. We currently import over 1 million pounds of rice a day. I want you to imagine that we were supporting local farmers with 1 million pounds of traditional starch a day. And this is bananas, breadfruit, taro, sweet potato. These are all things, the tapioca, that we can all grow that are so much healthier for your body, so much healthier for the land, and so much healthier for our economy.
I think saving the land is important to be on the land.
What I have found is that healthy people, physically healthy, tend to make better decisions. And so we've focused on what the Hawaiians call the piko of the household, the poi bowl. And by creating a place where the eating your staple, it's called a staple starch, yeah? And it's called a staple is because it's what holds your community together. Like the staple holds the paper together, these are the foods that actually hold our community together and bring them together. And it's not just the growing, which growing our starches requires a community. Harvesting, preparing them, making them, but also how we consume and share them is all part of community cultural practices. And so I've seen this, is that the person that is inflicted with diabetes, and these are a lot of diseases that are self-induced through diet, as they begin to rid themselves of these diseases, the choices that they make every day begin to change for the better, which impacts their siblings, their spouses, their parents, their children. Now, for young men in our community, there aren't a lot of cultural outlets for them. You know, really it's sports. But what do sports, how do they impact the family? Not very much, right? And so here's an activity that is physical, that is outdoors, that connects them to their land and their culture, but at the same time brings home the much needed nutrients into the family. You know, I've seen the kids tell their parents that they don't want to eat at McDonald's anymore. And what happens is the parents stop eating at McDonald's. Because we all do these things for our kids, right? We talk about the next generation and everything we do. Son, I'm going to go to work and work this 100 hours a week so you can have a better life. And when the child goes, Dad, how's about this week? You just come home early and make poi with me. Like, that's what I want you to do, right? The cultural practices that we're talking about are multi-generational. And so it heals trauma from the infants that eat it, to the adolescents and the adults that make it, to the kupunas that watch it. I mean, we've literally had elders whose grandparents fed them hand-pounded poi as babies, go through a whole lifetime with no hand-pounded poi, and then as elders watching their babies, their grandchildren eat it again and be part of it is healing. And so here's a food that can heal you physically, mentally, and the reality is that all of the practices of eating poi, of growing taro, is the same mindset that you would find in church. A lot of praying, a lot of celebrating, a lot of asking for help and guidance. You know, people keep telling me, Daniel, there's no farmers. And I'm going to continue to tell people that if 1% of our community wants to farm, we have 15,000 farmers on Oahu that don't have access to land and water or access to the right education to become a farmer. And what we believe is that instead of starting new farms, we need to create new farmers that know how to live on the land, eat from the land, produce foods that first feed them, their families, then the community, and if there's any left over, that goes to market. I believe that's the model of the future. We need to create a more food secure Hawaii. And that means that that's on every level. The level that we provide is more of a subsistence model, helping people create ohana gardens, helping people get access to growing taro even in a 5-gallon bucket, because we have to create entry points into agriculture. And that's one of the big opportunities that our organization has been able to provide. So, you know, people say, Daniel, how do you do this? How do you survive on doing this? Because for the last 11 years, I've been the #1 volunteer in our nonprofit organization. I don't take a yearly salary. Our organization basically pays the lease to the farm, but I feel like the work that I get to do and the lifestyle is the treasure. That's the profit, is I get to do what I love. And so a part of our organization is to help ensure that people aren't just growing food, but that our capacity to grow more food is available, right? It's like, yeah, we got to get our gardens going, but everyone's garden isn't necessarily going to save us and create a more food secure system. What's going to create a food secure system is the children that grow up gardening, wanting to become full-time farmers, having the work ethic and the knowledge to grow foods that they can consume themselves and to grow foods that our community wants to eat, right? Right now in Hawaii, what is our biggest crop? GMO corn. That's not for human consumption. And so the farmers that are farming that don't even eat what they're growing, but it's a part of the economy. And so in order to change that mindset, we need these farmers in their home to identify what they want to eat, what they love to eat. We're talking about the global perspective on our traditional food. And this is the first thing that I will start off with. Whenever you change a recipe by one step or one ingredient, it's not the recipe. What tourists are familiar with is a poi-like product. Yeah, they've basically, I want you to imagine, right? There's a difference between sashimi and canned tuna. And what our ancestors made is sashimi. and what today they serve is canned tuna. They're both made with fish, right? They're both made with taro, but one of them can use all the parts of the taro, while one of them only uses a very specific part. Unfortunately, because we grow so little taro today, right now we produce about 4 million pounds per year, as opposed to our ancestors that were producing between 3 to 5 billion pounds a year. We've gone into this scarcity mindset, right? Where they want you to have this Hawaiian experience. And so they make the lowest quality product and stretch it out the furthest so that you can have the experience, but it's a negative experience. When you do it right, you know, my hand-pounded pa'iai, which was illegal for many years, is served in some of the finest restaurants in Hawaii. When someone comes to your house and they don't like your food, how does that make you feel? What we want is we want visitors to come to our house, come to this place called Hawaii, and be marveled at the quality of our food. In order to do this, we need to get out of this scarcity mindset. We need to start producing the volume necessary to provide the sashimi instead of the canned tuna. I literally have had kids at one of the largest Hawaiian schools, Kamehameha schools. I've asked them, how come you guys don't eat the poi in the cafeteria? And they say, oh, uncle, that's not poi. What we make in hand pound, if that was available in the cafeteria, I'd eat that every single day. The crazy thing is, up until 1919, Kamehameha schools hand pounded and provided their own poi to all of their students. In 1919, the first time they served potatoes instead of poi, there was a food fight, was known as the Battle of the Potato. Well, the demand for traditional implements is greater than ever. And what I've really tried to be a part of, instead of selling them, is to host workshops and have people participate in making their own. But we're at a point where we need to raise a considerable amount of funds. And I've always told people, you know that I need to raise funds when I'm carving stones. And so it took me 3 days. I carved 5 stones, and in 3 hours on social media, the community was able to support us and raise over $2,000. And it's obvious that I'm going to continue to have to carve stones to make some of our financial goals met. But right now we're on a campaign to raise $400,000. That's basically the difference between what we qualify for a home loan and the cost of our farm. Unfortunately, 2 families are at need. One is the owners, the Hong family, Kevin and Neil, 2 brothers and their sister. Their father died, leaving them in debt. Their trust is trying to figure out how to get out of the debt. One of the ways is to sell this farm. Unfortunately, they were approached by a developer who said, right now's the time, cash in. And unfortunately, I believe that they feel like their family need is greater than ours. And so we've been praying. We've been praying that they are inspired to see that what we're providing is a legacy that their family can be a part of. But in order to do that, we need to honor them with being able to raise the funds to buy this place at fair market value or slightly above, because the market conditions right now are what they are. This farm is one of the last 6 farms in a 10,000 home community that is quickly being gentrified. And so, you know, today it's very important that we save this farm, but it's actually even more important for tomorrow. Every farm we lose in this community is one step closer to there being no farms. And the fact that we have been open to community education and mentorship, and really we're at the point of opening a farm school, the people in our community are going to be the benefactors of it. I mean, I guarantee you there's a bunch of kids that are graduating this year that aren't going to college. What are they going to do? How do they be productive? How do they go from living in an urban setting to being farmers? Is going to be through transitional places like what we've been building. You know, I used to work in fine art, and I've been in the home where he goes, this painting is priceless. I spent, $2 million on it. And I'm like, no, dude, it's a $2 million painting. Here, this is how you make it priceless, and that's in our own communities. We can perpetuate that by not associating everything with money. Yes, right now our family does have a need to raise funds, but it's not for the sake of our family. I'm not trying to save this farm for my kids. I'm trying to save this farm for all of our kids. That the reality is that it's more than the kids that need access to this agriculture knowledge. It's the parents. I start talking about farm school and parents are like, how do I sign up? Now, thus far, today, I believe is August 25th. We formally started our fundraising on July 21st. We've raised over $80,000 in the community in just grassroots support. So am I blown away and humbled? Absolutely. I have never, ever been on a campaign to raise this much money, nor have I ever been successful in raising this kind of money. I take all of these as a sign every morning when I wake up, and there's a few more $1,000s that we've raised, that I'm on the right path. And I believe at this time, it's twofold. One, it's great to get our message out and to get as many true grassroots support as we can, but also we're almost 25% to our goal. This is an indication to the institution and the angel donors out there that you're dealing with people that are serious and are committed to what we're doing. We're not going to stop. We don't want to stop here. I mean, if we have to, we have to, but the goal is to manifest staying here and creating a pathway, one, to show that we don't have to develop our lands into homes to be secure, and two, that we can take care of the needs in our community, really the Hong family that's equally going through trauma as much as our family is. You know, I don't believe that they want to sell it. I also believe that they realize that maybe we're not in a position to buy it. And so with the community support, that changes everything. And so in addition to asking people to help donate to our GoFundMe or to our ainamomona.org, is to pray for us. Is to help manifest the energy that it will take to maybe turn people into taking less money from you know, we're not going to accept the developer's bid. We're going to take the farmer's bid that have been here. You know, people go, Daniel, how come you don't just pack up and go somewhere else? Well, honestly, this place had 70 years of chemical agriculture. In the last 7 years, we went from being able to grow nothing to being able to have organic food production. That this is a template and a model that we can share, almost a finished product. People go, well, what do? We rehabilitate land. This is a part of the land that we've shown absolute rehabilitation. That even not owning it, that we've invested over $300,000 into this farm. I'm gonna go back to this concept of the pico, your belly button. And the belly button is as a child in your mother is where you get your source of all your nutrients. And really what we're working on building is the pico of our community food system. It's not the everything of the food system, but it's actually first base in our food system. And so the more families that participate create educators in every community. So maybe you as a full-time working adult going to the store to feed your family don't have the time to be impacted by traditional poi making, but you got a bunch of kids. And wouldn't it be awesome if one of your neighbors happened to be someone that we mentored that started a weekly poi making night and invited your kids over, and that one of your kids decided to become the poi maker in your family? And as a father raising your children, isn't it incredible to think that your 8-year-old, your 9-year-old could actually be an active component in feeding your family? That's what we want to be a part of. And we've seen it in thousands of families. We've seen it with families that go, oh, I don't like to eat poi. Well, guess what? 3 months out of your 9-year-old bringing poi home every week, you're like, oh, we got poi waffles. We got poi pancakes. We'd make smoothies. All of a sudden, because of its availability in your life, you didn't even know how much you love to eat poi. And those are the people that we're aiming for. This also has a huge impact in our Native Hawaiian at-risk community. Look, you're not Native Hawaiian, but do you hang around with Native Hawaiians that are unhealthy? And if those Native Hawaiians became healthier, would that impact your relationship with them? So in Hawaii, our staple foods are tied to the well-being of our entire community. Our food security is all of us. We're all in this boat. Does the boat come with nothing on it? How does that impact us? How secure do we feel? Look, you don't have to eat taro to know that if the boat stops, you might need to start eating taro. And if people are already growing it and producing it, we're that much more secure. You know, this is one of those things that you might not realize how important it is until you drive by a taro field and you stop by and you take a picture, because it's a beautiful scene. You know, every island, Kauai has Hanalei, the Big Island has Waipio, Maui has Kenai. There's actually no taro complex on Oahu for people to see and appreciate, and that is one of the things that we're gonna change in my lifetime. Before I die, there's gonna be 40, 50, 100 acres of taro in some place that any local person, any visitor, any military person can drive by and go, man, that is how you steward the resources in our community. Because that's what agriculture at its finest does. It makes sure that we have soil and land and skilled, educated workers to feed the next generation. We literally are part of the hedge fund for the food system.
Because it's important, because if you don't farm, you don't have anything to eat.
Yeah, and it's like, people understand when you bet against the system. Yeah, the major returns that it has when the market drops. Well, should the food market drop out from under us, we're gonna want to have already invested in the solutions and the people willing to share those solutions. That's the other part, is we're not raising funds to build a corporate farm that we're gonna charge you for this education, we're gonna charge you for the participation. We wanna continue to run our system open. You know, one of the things that we've been preaching out there is let us be in debt to the community, not the banks. We are aiming to raise the money by the end of September. We're at a place where we're hesitant to approach the owners to say we want to buy it because we don't currently have the resources to buy it. And should they say, yes, we'll sell it to you, if we don't have the money, it kind of puts us in a place where it's like, oh, we're going to get it. Let's give you an IOU. So there's many moving parts to this. Ideally, if we can raise the $400,000 by September, we're going to go right in and kick the door down and say, we got it. Here we go. Here's our loan and here's the deposit. Let's move forward. I think a lot of people would have just been crushed by the challenges. Every day I just wake up, I'm like, all right, what challenge are we going to take off the list today? And sometimes it's fundraising, sometimes it's inspiring someone, sometimes it's increasing the network, sometimes it's carving stones. You know, the truth is, in addition to operating and running a farm and community education, I've now got to do fundraising and community networking and firefighting and talking to realtors. And so we're just treating it like a plate of food and consuming it one bite at a time. Really focusing on the foods that, you know, gotta be eaten right now. I gotta feed the pigs, I gotta feed the chickens, I gotta feed the kids every single day. I do need to continue our commitment to give huli out in the community. Since we've found out about the potential eviction, we've still given out, we put out 4,000 huli in the last month, literally helping 2 taro farms completely start up from scratch. And we did that not with any expectations other than you're gonna take care of our taros, you're gonna grow food, you're gonna continue to share this in your community. When I did reach out to Mike Gabbert, who is the senator in charge, he's the chairperson of the Agriculture Committee, his response was, I'm really sorry to hear about your challenges, Daniel. Best of luck. Let me think about how I might be able to help, and then never responded since. So our political and institutional leaders don't have an answer. I believe that our community not only has the answer, but needs the solution. And so we're reaching out to the community to be a major component in how we save this farm. And should any one of the grants that we've written, and we are writing grants, and any one of these things come through, it'll help to lessen the load of the community. But ultimately, if the 100,000 Kanakas that live here all donate $4, we got it. If the 1 million people that live on this island donate $1, not only do we have all the resources that we need, but the farm school starts, we can immediately start taking 21 students at a crack and begin to do the real work to transition us into a farmer-based economy. We're all in this together, so we understand that people are struggling, and you know, we're grateful for whatever they can offer and support. And the reality is that, God willing, we're gonna make this happen. Kanakas, if each of you throw down $4 for your husband, your wife, and your kids, we got this in the bank, just in the Hawaiian community. You know, and no Kanaks, that we rather be in debt to the Hawaiian community than any other community, but we're gonna be in debt to all of Hawaii, maybe the planet, in a way that we're not gonna be able to pay it back in dollars. We're gonna pay it back in effort. We're gonna pay it back in consistency. If you look back, we're one of the most consistent organizations to get out and do this work, regardless of whatever financial resources that we've had. We've always believed that this is the two major resources that you need to commit. And 100% of this has always been in the community, has always been giving, and will continue to give and plant and grow. If the way that you're currently living is not what you want to pass down to your children, then supporting what we're doing here in Hawaii is a way to support one of the many solutions that we will need to change the way we live on planet Earth. Now, by supporting indigenous communities, these are the communities that have always supported the greater community. Yeah, when the Pilgrims came, the first Thanksgiving, it was the Native Americans that fed them. When Captain Cook first came, it was the Native Hawaiians that fed him. What we need to do is to change the way that we relate to each other, to build trust, to build hope, to create opportunities to love each other, even though we're different, so that we can come together to really work on the things that matter. Regenerating our sick planet, taking care of our natural resources, creating sustainable, regenerative economies that build collaborations amongst people that help to spread the wealth and the food systems out across the planet. I know it's a simple ask to help us save our farm, but when we save one farm, we give hope to the next farm. When we help one educator continue to give, we actually create new educators in the community that in turn are going to continue giving. If you guys can help us out, go to ainamomona.org/donate or check out our GoFundMe, Save Our Farm from Developers. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to reach out to every one of you folks. I love you guys. I don't even know you, but I send love and aloha out to you. If you're in Hawaii, don't be shy. Reach out to us. We want to connect in a meaningful way, have you not just tour the farm, but come and spend some time with us. If you got a naughty kid, come talk to me. I love naughty kids. Everyone have a blessed day. Thank you so much for hearing our message. Aloha, ahuiho. That's all we could fundraise for. We could have got 100,000. We would have got 100,000. But tell you what, 10,000 is a significant number. The idea was to have a great presence without people. And this is a part of the strategy of honoring this pandemic.